things you do understand, you will sooner or later forget, because it will become unconscious. It will become part of your soul, part of your world. It will be an integrated part of your whole being, but you will not think about it, because that's not the purpose of thinking. If you didn't forget, you wouldn't be able to continue on the next round and get higher and higher and higher.
All right, so I'm going to talk about forgetting HTTP. But first, I would like actually to figure out who in this room knows about HTTP. That might sound like a stupid question, but I would still want to ask that question. So who knows HTTP? All right, say more than 3/4 or something. Am I safe to assume that you are familiar with HTTP and actually you're not responding truth to these two questions? You don't have a clear and complete idea of HTTP? If you do, can you still raise your hand? Okay, somebody raised half. But I can actually go even further and ask if there is somebody in the room that can give an estimation of how much time would actually take to implement an HTTP server or an HTTP client. I think there's nobody in this room, not even me, because actually that's what it boils down to. You know IKEA when actually you take a leaflet, from a furniture, and you know that you're going to flip back and forth in order to actually build your furniture. You know pasta when you know that it's going to take like 8 to 10 minutes to boil it. This is when you know stuff. It's not when you heard about these things. But so I don't think we know HTTP. The better question is, should we? Are we in IETF? Are we, I don't know, are we really interested in HTTP, or we just want to get away, I would say, with transferring a message, decomposing it on one side, building it on the other side, making use of the data that travels from A to B. I'm talking both business and developer-wise. So that is why I'm going to come up with a new protocol. Who is in for that? Okay. Now I'm actually not going to do that, because I'm convinced that whatever you're going to invent, it will get more and more complex, and you're going to reinvent parts, if not most, of HTTP. HTTP is wrongly tagged sometimes as a transport protocol, just some data going from A to B, but it's actually a transfer protocol. Most of the things that you see and you use nowadays, it's targeting one part and one part only, and that is the messaging part. If you do you know about HTTP BIS? Yeah? No? So HTTP 1.1 is spec'd in RFC 2616 in 99, but you can also find some specification in what is called the HTTP BIS track, which sort of try to explain some of the things and correct and so on. And there's actually more structure to HTTP. And part 1 is messaging, part 2 is semantics. Most frameworks, if not like 99.9% of the frameworks that we use daily, it's targeting part 1. We are able to decompose and compose a response, a request and a response. What happens in between, it's coded over and over again. I have a problem with that, because you know, there's a lot of noise because of that. REST, you're doing it wrong. HTTP, you're doing it wrong. You don't hear that when you think of a microwave, do you? Microwave, you're doing it wrong. You can't use a microwave. We're not supposed to know how a microwave works internally. That is called leaky abstraction. I looked at the zip, the file compression format, and it has 3 RFCs. In all of them, there is a section called source code. It's pointing to a reference implementation or to de facto standard, since some of that spec was actually documenting how a code was already written. But the point is that you are actually very dry. We are all using some sort of zip compression on a daily basis. We have, who has any idea of how zip works? Okay, very few. How many use it? Yeah, thank you, just confirming a theory there. If a language appears today, whatever, you name it, there's a boom in programming languages. What you usually would do is not re-implement the zip format and et cetera, but you would just use a binding to a C library. I mean, somebody worked out all the fuzziness, and you just need an interface in your programming language to connect to the native code, et cetera. We don't have that for HCP, and I don't see any movement into that direction. We're just gonna like keep duplicating code over and over and over again. And yeah, I'm sorry if I'm being negative, but I think that's like a dead end there. It's just like teaching everyone what French cuisine is all about. Otherwise, they cannot cook. It's teaching everyone how math works, how the phone works. That just doesn't scale. You have a cognitive limit there. So,
I see morons. They're everywhere. They just don't know they're morons.
I think this is a very symbolic way of how we have two sides today looking at each other. You have like the IETF and surrounding group, and they look at some implementers and they go like, these like kids, you know, they know nothing. You start stalking them. If anybody is using Node JS in the room, or is up to date with some hacker news, I mean, you stalk them because I don't know what library does what, and it has a bad implementation, and you have GitHub issues because they are implementing HTTP wrong for some status code, and then for 100 the status code X, you also have to do this and that, and I mean that just does not scale. And then you have the other one, the other group, the developer group, the techie group, saying, you know, these Rastafarians, they have no idea what we're dealing with today. I have to deliver code today. What the heck am I gaining by using proper HTTP status codes, proper methods, proper, you name it. But that also doesn't get you anywhere. I mean, one side is lacking context over the other and vice versa. And in the end, you just get a gap. So gaining context. I mean, there's another thing about gaining context. Previously, there were lots of developers in the room. Still lots of developers? Yes? Okay, half, more. But I assume everybody is doing software development, right? Yeah. Software development is split into two. I mean, I think I don't know what developers in this room think, but it's really not about writing code. When you design something, it does not require you to write code in order to design. Most of us, including me today, we just think, yeah, I need to solve this problem, so I'll just start typing something, and the solution will just pop up. And code quality will be so high. And it goes the other way around as well. I think some issues that came up with HTTP as it was spec'd in 1999, it was because there was no reference implementation that you can actually pinpoint to and say, yes, this is clean code, this is doing it by the book, and this is what we recommend people to use. If it was like that, then I'm certain that some of the issues that were corrected afterwards would have been corrected then or much earlier. So coming back to knowing stuff and forgetting, I think software development, if successful, can only have one end state, and that is to forget. We don't think today about zip because we actually forgot about zip. We just know that you can call something and it will do what you think it's doing. The same, I mean, what you get out of that is a black box. That's the artifact. You have the C library, you can call it. You have maybe something in your programming language of choice that you can call. There is a library, somebody else has done it. You know that it works as it should. You use it. You don't need to know how it works internally. You just use it. It has a clean interface. It does what it says well, hopefully, and you just use it. The definition there of a black box is a usually complicated electronic, in this definition, device whose internal mechanism is usually hidden from or mysterious to the user. The fact that you have answered yes to knowing HTTP sort of tells me that HTTP is not mysterious to you. And if my assumption that you're not really into developing protocols, then I think it should actually be mysterious to you. Otherwise, it's a leaky abstraction. I've been designing a REST API at Klarna, and most of the question is like, should we use this HTTP status code or should we use this other one? Well, I don't know. I mean, you can just look at the spec, but that's not really the problem. What are you trying to tell the user there? Are you trying that you're redirecting to another resource, that you just know that another resource is there? This is just noise, I think. It doesn't build up to any valuable and measurable gain. There has been a lot of ranting, I would say, constructive criticism, to put it diplomatic, about HTTP 2.0. And I mean, we know sort of the story, compression, multiplexing, binary protocol, implementing TCP over HTTP on top of TCP. You can read as much as you want, obviously. I don't know if you do. I don't, because I don't think the problem is in the encapsulation part. This is what HTTP 2.0 actually adds. It adds encapsulation to HTTP messaging. The rest stays the same. You will still have a method, you will still have headers, you will have a payload, a status code. That is not going to change. And from where I stand, this is where the problem actually is, because in, I don't know, most developers or most APIs that are open sourced or developers that I'm talking to, it's all about, oh, now we need to do authorization, now we need to throw this code. I don't know, it sounds to me like an issue that nobody is tackling, and I don't want to be assertive, but so correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't see any movement in that area. State of the union of the HTTP implementations. So encapsulation, I mean, there are some for HTTP 2.0. There are some implementations of the draft 0.06. Anyway, we'll go through with that. Messaging, let's say that it's done. We use some practices to process some text into a method, URI, status code, headers, payload, say on a request. Semantics, I sort of look around and who has actually dealt with the semantics of HTTP on a real scale? Who has been doing? Who has been writing a cache server? No? Someone? Okay. Content negotiation. Okay, more. Still, semantics. It's like something that, I don't know. It feels like what communication is today is just exchanging zeros and ones, and we just make something out of it. There's also like related specs. I guess if you're on the product side, you would say immediately that it's very easy to validate an email, right? And then some developers might not agree with you. Same with validating an URI, because of course you just use a regex and right? No, it's not really like that. But anyway, I think we're lacking in that area as well. So coming back to these sides, if you look at the spec, I think there are some things that, yeah, could be improved or dealt with. I have no idea if I'm lucky or unlucky, but recently I have been debugging some code related to headers. All problems have been due to the case, actually there's a typo, case insensitive headers in HTTP 1.1. So no matter how you write content type, as long as it has a dash in the middle, just use capitals, lowercase, anything. It's still sending the same semantics. Now it's going to be simplified, lowercase into 2.0. But I mean, there's been so much time passing by that now, okay, so some frameworks are sending out lowercase headers, but intermediaries or clients don't really understand those, so you have to use like the camel-cased version and so on. There's like this incompatibility that is arising. Some guys over there, I don't know if I missed anyone, said that they have been doing content negotiation stuff. I don't know how, but usually when I mention or if I read a blog post about content negotiation, it comes down to like, yes, you can just append .json or .xml to the URI and that is content negotiation. Well, that's one way to look at it. That's not how it's spec'd in HTTP. Oh, okay, so you mean the accept header? Yes. Okay, so you just split it by the comma token and then you just see if what your resource provides is in that list, right? Well, no. Media type equivalence, there's like, it's white space insensitive. Although, I mean, you need to know knowledge about that. You need to know how to parse it or at least trim it. And it, again, is not even as easy as that because the values of the parameters that you can give to a media type, they can be quote in between quotes. So I mean, there's these levels that you just go deeper and deeper and deeper. And I wrote there parsing, but it's not the only problem left on the list. You have an ABNF in most specs. I haven't seen any code so far that actually uses that to parse the message. Most code just splits by a comma, uses some regex. It's all, you know, optimistic parsing. Again, we think we're doing HTTP, but we're not. And it goes the same for the developers. You know, like most of the HTTP code is all about syntactic sugar. It's opinionated. You can do this better, but not this. Easier, convenient. Everything is more or less like a subset of HTTP. Portability, what is that? I'm just trying to write my Ruby framework. I don't care about your Erlang HTTP framework. Nothing. And that's how it goes also like with the library for MIME parsing. It covers some languages, but again, it's like duplicate code. So forget it, or else there is no next round.
You will see all these people saying that we do not know what we know. And then those who are even smarter, they say, well, we do not know that we do not know that we do not know. And those are very, very high up in the hierarchy. They say, we know nothing at all. And that's what I'm trying to tell you here. I am the smartest teacher of all teachers on this course because I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm completely lost, you know.
Well, that is more or less me here, standing in front of you, but just since there is so little time left, I didn't get to the nice part. It usually happens like that when you don't rehearse presentations. But this is not a rant. I mean, this is just an observation of me trying to do APIs at Klarna for 2.5 years, and I have come up with some theory of solving these things. It's not a solution. If you know Web Machine, or you have heard about Web Machine, it's a HTTP framework in Erlang, and it's based on this state machine where the request starts here, and then it does a check. Oh, is the service available? Yes, no, then respond with a code. So it tries to find out the right response code without you actually knowing what you should return. That for me is a level of great abstraction. It just removes the noise. And it goes on like this. And then this has been done mostly in the way of explaining how HTTP has been spec'd, not necessarily finding out the most common flow that we would use. Or anyway, so I've tried to take the other approach. So I've discovered this, and it has flaws both in like how it's thought out, but also in the Web Machine implementation. So I sort of tried to figure out even more. So it's split into different blocks. And I mean, if this is not clear, when you're trying to do HTTP by the book, this is what you have to duplicate in your programming language over and over again. The point is, both business and developer-wise, I mean, I get very irrational when I don't at least sell myself the idea that I'm writing dry code. I don't want to go to a different company then code the same thing again. As a product, I don't think it's your product to build the same HTTP framework over and over again. So try to see here the advantage that I'm trying to sell. I will stop here. Thank you for listening, and if you have questions, then I will try to answer, but reminder, I know nothing at all.